Hi, this is your mini lecture for Chapter 9, Work Teams and Groups. Here are your learning outcomes for this chapter. You may pause here to read them if you would like. First, we're going to start by defining a group and a work team. So a group is just two or more people that have a common interest, common goals or objectives, and have continuing interaction. And similarly, a work team is just a group that has complementary skills, and these people are committed to a common mission, a common goal, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. Next, let's look at the benefits organizations and individuals derive from teams working together. So teamwork is just the joint action by a team in which individual interests are subordinated to team unity. And we'll put that in real life terms. Basically, you have multiple people working together in order to achieve their goal. And there's been a lot of recent movement toward team-oriented work environments. And this really helps to empower people and helps to facilitate collaboration. There are some benefits to individuals too. There's this concept called psychological intimacy. Basically, when people work in groups, they have emotional and psychological closeness to other team members. So it helps with our interpersonal relationships. And we feel that sense of belonging that we've talked about with Maslow's hierarchy. And integrated involvement deals with the closeness achieved through tasks and activities. And so again, you develop some social benefits because you're working towards a common goal. All right, what factors influence group behavior? All right, so when we have work teams, there's certain things that are going to help to determine the group cohesiveness and group behavior. So norms, so these are our standards that are used to evaluate the behavior of members. And norms tend to sort of just come about organically or on their own. Group cohesion, and this is really the interpersonal glue that makes groups stick together. How cohesive is the group? Do they get along? What does that look like? We hope there is a lack of social loafing. Social loafing is basically when one person does not contribute equally. And this can really lead to a lot of issues within groups. And then loss of individuality. Sometimes individual group members feel a loss of self-awareness, and this can accompany a sense of accountability, inhibition, and responsibility for individual behavior. So now it's no longer um, me, but it's we, and that can have positive and negative aspects. So how do groups form and develop? Well, there's two types of groups. There's formal groups, which are official or assigned groups that are put together to perform a very specific task. And then there's informal groups, and these are groups that just happen to evolve, and they come together to meet needs that were not met by formal groups. And some considerations when we look at putting together groups, both formally and informally, is things like ethnicity, having various genders, cultural, and interpersonal diversity. So when we have groups, and especially when we put together work teams, we want to have diversity in those groups, both in terms of our surface level diversity, things we can see, and then the things that we can't see, so our skills and our personality, because that's going to allow us to ultimately have better results. This is Tuckman's five-stage model of group development. And you'll see this in change management and a lot of other areas as well. But basically, what Tuckman says is that all groups start by forming where there's little agreement, there might not be a clear purpose, and you may or may not have guidance and directions. So you put this team together, whether it's formally or informally. Then there's storming. So as the group is forming and as they're trying to figure out their group norms, you might have some conflict, which can help to lead to increased clarity of purpose. You may have some power struggles. You may have a leader that emerges. So the group's really trying to kind of figure out what their group dynamic looks like. Next is norming, and this is where you sort of come to this agreement and consensus of what your purpose is, what your goals are, what everybody's roles and responsibilities are. And then once you get to norming, then the group starts to perform. They have a clear vision, they have a clear focus, they can focus on achieving their goals. And then once a task is done, you can have a journeying of that group, all right? And hopefully they'll have good feelings about their achievements and there will be some recognition. So what are the characters of mature groups? Mature groups have a purpose and a mission. They've established behavioral norms, have group cohesion, and have a status structure. And so this would just sort of be in here, really this norming and performing stage. All right. So next let's look at how task and maintenance functions influence group performance. So basically a task function is what am I doing or what is the group doing to achieve our goal or our task? And the maintenance function is really those interpersonal pieces. So task functions are initiating activities, seeking information, giving information, elaborating on concepts, coordinating activities, summarizing ideas, testing, evaluating, and diagnosing problems. All right, so it's very task oriented. Whereas in the maintenance functions, we're really looking at our communication and supporting each other's, following others' leads, communicating, setting standards, expressing feelings, testing group decisions, coming to consensus, harmonizing, and reducing tension. Again, those interpersonal pieces. Some factors that influence group effectiveness include the work team structure. Um, So what is the goals and objectives? What is the performance measures? And what is each person's role? Your processes. This involves managing cooperative and competitive behaviors. Really, what are the processes that are occurring within the group? How does diversity impact our group? Well, diversity in general enhances group effectiveness. And this can be especially true when we have, like I said, people with diverse backgrounds, people with diverse skill sets that can help to come together for a common goal and achieve that goal. There's also the different styles of member contributions. We have people who are contributors, collaborators, communicators, challengers. So we want to have different people with different styles that they can contribute to the team. Creativity, having people with creative and individual thoughts. We want to encourage divergent thinking, meaning we want to encourage people to be creative and think outside the box. And can happen with more diversity. We can do it with different brainstorming techniques, training, and then adding and taking away members to teams. Empowerment is also important to teams, especially self-management teams. So when we look at empowerment, you have to have competence skills. So if you're going to empower a team, they actually have to have knowledge in that area of that project or that task they're going to be completing. They have to have some process skills. They have to be able to cooperate and help each other, and they have to have communication skills in order for empowerment to be effective. So when we ultimately empower a team, the highest level of empowerment is a self-managed team. These can also be called self-directed teams or autonomous work groups. They make decisions instead of the managers making decisions. So instead of the manager managing the group manages themselves. And the group is in charge for setting their direction and making their decisions. And this helps to implement empowerment on organizations. Um, and obviously it's going to work better in certain situations than other. This is really common like at Google when their software engineers are putting together new products or software offerings, they'll put them into self-managed teams so they can control the process better. Next, we're going to look at the importance of upper echelons and top management teams. So upper echelons are just self-managed teams at the top level. So these are your upper managers. And basically, upper echelon theory says that background characteristics of the top management team can predict organizational characteristics. So basically, your upper echelons will predict your organizational characteristics. And they set the standards for the values, competence, and ethics in the company. I think we've talked about that. You have to have ethical upper management, and that hopefully will trickle down to the rest of the organization. Um, this will set the upper echelon theory states that This will set standards for unique characteristics in an organization and is the key to success of an organization. We also want to have diversity in our top management. This helps to sustain high levels of organizational performance in the top upper echelons, the top levels of management. It helps maintain the CEO's visibility. And we also want to have multicultural top teams. So having this diversity may increase uncertainty, complexity, and inherent confusion in the group processes, but ultimately it will generate more and better ideas and limit groupthink because we have differences in viewpoints. And ultimately it will lead to organizational success. So that is your mini lecture for chapter 9. If you have questions, please contact